ICU worker found out that her daughter was a mass shooting victim. Put it with the picture full mass. The attack on a back to school mass at a Catholic church killed 2 children. It left 18 individuals injured. Okay. The mother of one victim was working in the ICU, intensive care unit, when her critically injured daughter arrived at the hospital. This is unbelievable. This daughter is 12 years old. 12 years of age. Sophia Forchas was in her first week as a 7th grade student at this Catholic school in Minneapolis. She was rushed to the hospital, underwent emergency surgery, and is still recovering in the ICU where her mother works. Let me just pause on this moment. You have a mother who's dedicated her life to saving the lives of others. You work in an ICU unit. You're responsible for some of the most extreme patient cases that can come inside of that hospital. So you dedicated your life to be a lifesaver. All of a sudden, your child who's 12 years old, just started school, is inside of your ICU. How? How, as a parent, do you cope with that? There's more. Forch's own mother rushed to work on Wednesday morning in Hennepin Healthcare, downtown Minneapolis, to help with the influx of victims. All right, this is an all hands on deck situation. Quote, before knowing it was her children's school that was attacked and that her daughter was critically injured. This is on the GoFundMe page in the narrative. Forch's younger brother was also present during the attack, but was not injured. Quote, though he was physically unharmed, the trauma of witnessing such a terrifying event and knowing his sister was critically injured is something no child should have experienced. The GoFundMe page also states, we will include a link to the GoFundMe in the description. A close family friend wrote on the page, quote, Sophia was shot during the attack and is currently in critical condition in the ICU. She has already undergone emergency surgery, and her medical team is doing everything they can to stabilize her. That means that she's not stabilized. Her road ahead will be long, uncertain, and incredibly difficult, but she is strong and she is not alone. 19 people were shot, 16 of whom are children. 2 of the victims, ages 8 and 10, died from their injuries. 3 of the victims are parishioners in their 80s. All are expected to survive, according to Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara. So authorities in Minneapolis, they continue to investigate the shooter's motive. The shooter has been identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman, who fired 116 rounds through the windows of the church. Westman reportedly attended the Catholic school prior to graduating. ABC5 reported by way of Ryan Raish that they found videos on a YouTube page believed to belong to Westman. The page has since been taken down, but the video seemed to have been posted on Wednesday morning. The video displays an arsenal of weapons and what appears to be a 4-page long manifesto. What is his motive? They are investigating. What is his motive? Why did he have so many guns? Let's investigate that. How was he able to amass so much ammunition? Let's investigate that. How was he able to post that he had all of this ammunition on an open social media or online page? How? Let's investigate that. But they won't investigate that because, see, that's a political hot potato. Because the conclusion after the investigation will be due to American policy. That's why. Maybe the fact that he had access and could obtain so much ammunition legally, maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe because we don't have common sense rules and protocols in order to create cooling down periods for individuals who may be experiencing a hot-headed moment. Maybe because we have decided to make this decision of guns in the United States, not based on what works, but based on political ideology and truly political indoctrination. It doesn't make sense. You know, in the United States of America, it is illegal to have over a certain amount of oxygen in your home. It's against the law because they will tell you that many oxygen cans will create a fire risk for your home. So it's against the law to have an unlimited amount of damn oxygen. But you can have an unlimited number of guns. You can have an unlimited number of bullets to go in the guns. And the government has to legally protect your unlimited right to have the most deadly weapons on the planet Earth. But you cannot have more than 10 cans of oxygen. No, something that already is freely available by way of the planet. It's backwards. And as soon as we don't see it for what it is, as soon as we argue in support of such a ridiculous policy and not look at the nuance of the hypocrisy that's involved in it. For example, you need an ID to vote. That's what the gun carriers would tell you. The ones that just want guns. And I'm not against you having one. You have a right to have one. But they'll tell you, you got to have an ID to vote. But then those same individuals will tell you, you don't need an ID to have a gun. They will say the reason is because the gun, your right to bear arms, that's your constitutional right. No prerequisite required. But doesn't the Constitution also protect your right to vote? So why is it that I need an ID to exercise one right, but I don't need an ID to exercise the other? It's hypocrisy. All right, dear brother, thoughts here.
I mean, I don't think there's a lot I can add that would be better than that. I didn't know that about the oxygen tank thing. I think that's something I'm going to put in my pocket and probably use over and over again in the future because this is going to happen again. And I know that yesterday when I saw this story unfolding, there is this kind of numbness and this instinct to look away and not want to get into the nitty gritty of the actual details of what's going on here because it is heartbreaking and it's way easier, I think, for a lot of folks to just go, oh, well, this is just someone who is crazy. This is a bad apple. And I think that is, as the kids say, cope a little bit. I grew up around guns. I think that, there is a conversation to be had that requires nuance on both sides. But when you see stories like this, it is the most unfathomable situation you can imagine. And I mean unfathomable in like the literal sense, because when this woman was working in the ICU in a pediatric ICU. So in that scenario, I can imagine that she probably throughout her entire life and career has thought about those kinds of scenarios happening, the worst case scenario. It's sort of like I've heard of firefighters when they get calls and they worry that it's going to be someone they know. This is, in my opinion, very similar. And so when you hear something like this, I think it activates a certain level of empathy that forces you into actually having those kind of more nuanced conversations. And so I hope people just kind of pause for a second because we've been through this so many times and it ends up kind of going back and forth and being the same conversation. And I do think some kind of like empathy and slowing down is going to be the only way for us to even enter into those kinds of hopefully productive conversations.
That's correct. And our hearts, our prayers, our positive vibes are with the family and those who are recovering. This is the reason we create good policy. It's a socioeconomic contract between the community and the government. And I'm not trying to politicize it. I just want things to be better. And if we don't pause on moments like this to consider that, yes, policy could actually stop things like this from happening in the future, we're not doing the best that we can do as individuals who understand how policy works. All right, we'll bring updates as they come.